I think it's just compounded. The reaction to this is compounded by the fact that like so many of the other like translations from live action, from animation to live action, have been so spot on. When you come off of like Bo-Katan looking exactly the same in both animation and live action, like it sets yourself up for like, well, they can do this obviously, but it's a human. It's obviously different.
It's a piece of
And
metal.
but even so, I thought Cad Bane. I know a lot of people didn't like Cad Bane. I thought Cad Bane was almost spot on. I really didn't have any problems with that at all. I thought he was as close as they could get to like making that realistic in live action. So I think Cad Bane is a lot closer live action and animation than this is. But if you look at it long enough, it's you'll get used to it. It's just like your things like you I think people looking at this perspective of like, oh, you're comparing it Rebels to this. Compare this to Rebels. Look at like how realistic this guy looks, and look at how unrealistically like thin that the Grand Inquisitor's face is. In the, like nobody has a face that much. Nobody has a face that thin. It wouldn't work. They were gonna have to widen him out a little bit.
Dude, I will say, do any fans of Star Wars Rebels, like, the hardcore fans who are like, yeah, this is one of the best things in Star Wars, which, again, people, I love that there are a lot of people that think that there should be that hardcore fans for everything that effort is put into. Do any of you feel really validated by how sacrosanct people are holding this character? Because could not have imagined 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when Rebels was kind of getting some mixed feedback from fans and from critics. I couldn't imagine that people would have cared so much about it to be making such a visible thing about this.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even imagined that the character could have appeared in live action. Like as a Rebels fan, I'm not in the super hardcore crowd, but I enjoyed the show a lot. I think it's really cool that the Grand Inquisitor is in this. I think it's really cool that the fifth brother is in this. I think it'll be really cool when Ezra and Thrawn and Sabine and everybody shows up in the Ahsoka show. Like I'm on board for all of this. This like Rebels Renaissance I'm here for it. I think I've been rewatching some Rebels episodes lately and kind of given the reevaluation of the show all these years later. And there's a lot more in it that I like than I disliked. There's a handful of episodes that I never want to see again and am seriously considering skipping as I rewatch it. But there's a lot of other ones where I'm like, this is really good. This is really entertaining. And just bringing it all in is really into the live action stuff is really exciting to me. And for all of this talk about the translating the character from live action from animation into live action, like to me the look, I was a little bit jarred when I first saw the Grand Inquisitor, but as I said, I've gotten used to it. To me, the thing that is always more the character, and where I struggle more with the characters, is when they don't sound like how they did on the show.
Yeah.
And again, Bo-Katan spoiled us because that was just a perfect scenario. Just a perfect scenario. But when Ahsoka speaks in the live action shows, I kind of wish I could hear Ashley Eckstein say those lines. And I think Rupert Friend does a really good job with what we get in this trailer. I'm excited to see his take on the Grand Inquisitor. But I kind of like to hear Jason Isaacs say those lines. And it's because I think to me it's the voice was the only part of that was real, quote unquote. Yeah. Everything else was a drawing, a moving cartoon, like a beautiful animation. But the human part of all of that was the voice. And so I latch on to that. And so when they change, I can deal with the change in the look a lot more easily than I can with a change in the voice.
Yeah.
That said, it still doesn't make or break it for me. Obi-Wan doesn't sound exactly the same way he sounds on the Clone Wars that he does in this or in the films. Same with Anakin. Same with a lot of characters that we've seen animated, and that just means that it's just a different take and a different take on Star Wars. And what I love about one of the things I love about the Star Wars franchise, quote unquote, is how it is this tapestry of different mediums, and so the different mediums are going to have differences in them, and so sometimes it takes some getting used to. I think it's fair to say that, but ultimately, this is what Joel says right here. It's capturing the spirit of the character, and if they can get that right with the Grand Inquisitor, which they seem to be doing, then I may still miss Jason Isaacs' sultry, over the top mustache twirling villain performance, but if they get the character right, then I don't mind. I don't care.
We're not about to watch the Dominic Jones cut of Solo with Harrison Ford's voice dubbed over all of his performance. I was getting excited for a moment there. I'm like, that sounds interesting.
Just missed out. And Joel again with the super chat. Clone Wars Anakin sounds nothing like Hayden Anakin. And it's true. There's a few moments where I think Matt Lanter does emulate Hayden's performance, especially in the scenes with Palpatine, especially in the Zillo Beast episodes. But by and large, he's doing his own thing. He's not trying to be Hayden. He's trying to be Anakin. And as long as I think that's fair. Same with Rupert Friend. He's giving a performance as the Grand Inquisitor. He shouldn't try and be Jason Isaacs.
Yeah.